There is one organ in your body your own doctors were trained to see as a mistake, a factory defect, an evolutionary typo, a part with no purpose, best cut out and dropped in the tray. For over a century, that was the official verdict. Remove it, you won't miss it. It never did anything anyway. And the strange thing is how well it hid. A small, coiled tube tucked where your two intestines meet. It hid from the ancient anatomists, who cut open the body for thousands of years and never worked out what it was for. Then much later, it hid from the greatest biologist who ever lived, who looked straight at it and called it a leftover. So here is the line I want you to hold for the next few minutes. They called it a mistake because they never saw it do its job. Its job only shows up when everything else has already failed. In about 7 minutes, you'll understand exactly what that means, and why the textbook that dismissed it is quietly being rewritten right now. It is not a leftover. It is not a spare part. It is not vestigial. It is a backup for a catastrophe your ancestors faced, and you mostly don't. First, if this organ does nothing, why is it still here? And why does the newest research keep handing it a job? Second, the paradox that should stop you. If it's useful, why does it swell and burst and try to kill you? Hold that one. And third, the question you actually came for. Should you fight to keep yours? And if it's already gone, have you lost something? The studies are at war over that one. I'll give you the honest answer, not the comfortable one. To see why they got it so wrong, go back to 1871. Charles Darwin, in The Descent of Man, looked at the human appendix and reached a conclusion that would harden into fact for the next 100 years. He proposed it was a vestige, a shrunken remnant of a larger digestive organ our leaf-eating ancestors once needed, now withering away, useful for nothing. A scar left behind by evolution. It was a reasonable guess. It was also, we now think, wrong. But it came from Darwin, so it stuck. The verdict passed into every medical textbook. Vestigial organ, no known function. If it gives trouble, take it out. The patient loses nothing. This is not a story about a cover-up. Nobody buried the appendix. Something quieter happened. A brilliant man gave a confident answer. The answer was carved into stone, and for a century, almost no one thought to check it. The organ didn't hide because it was hidden. It hid because everyone had already decided there was nothing there to see. So let's do the thing they didn't. Let's look. Cut one open, and the first surprise is what it's made of. The appendix is packed with lymphoid tissue, the tissue of your immune system. This has been known for about a century, sitting in the same textbooks that called the organ useless. A part with no function does not come stocked with immune machinery. And its position isn't random. It sits right at the border crossing, where the small intestine hands off to the large intestine, to the colon, where your gut bacteria live in their trillions. In 2007, two researchers at Duke University, William Parker and Randall Bollinger, published an idea in the Journal of Theoretical Biology. Not a discovery, a hypothesis. They were careful about that word, so am I. Their idea starts with the shape of the thing. The appendix is a narrow, dead-end tube, a cul-de-sac off the main road of the gut. And in that sheltered pocket, out of the traffic, beneficial bacteria can settle and build a biofilm, a walled garden of the good bacteria your gut runs on. Here's why that shape might matter. Picture the kind of illness that empties you completely, the violent, gut-scouring sickness that for most of human history was a common way to die. Cholera, dysentery, an infection that flushes the colon clean and takes your entire population of gut bacteria out with it. When that happens, Parker and Bollinger proposed, the reservoir in the appendix survives, tucked in its cul-de-sac, out of the current. And once the storm passes, the good bacteria emerge and reseed the gut before anything dangerous can move into the empty space. A backup drive for your microbiome. And Parker said the honest part out loud. There was, in his words, no smoking gun, only an abundance of circumstantial evidence. That is the true status of this idea. Not proven, proposed, compelling, and still an open question. But it answers the first riddle. The vestige that does nothing does something. It just does it at the one moment you'd never be watching. After the catastrophe, in the dark, when the gut has been wiped clean and needs rebuilding. Now the second surprise. This is the one that turned my head. If the appendix were a useless leftover, evolution should be quietly deleting it. Leftovers get discarded. That's how it works. It's doing the opposite. In 2013, a team led by Heather Smith, working with William Parker and others, published a survey in the journal Compte Rendu Palévaux. They mapped the appendix across 361 species of mammal onto the evolutionary tree. What they found? The appendix has appeared independently at least 32 separate times. Evolved from scratch over and over in lineages that never shared it. Beavers, koalas, rabbits, primates. And once it shows up, it is almost never lost. Fewer than 7 times across all of it. When a structure evolves once, it can be an accident. When it evolves 32 times independently and refuses to disappear, that's the fingerprint of something useful. Biologists call it convergent evolution. Nature arriving at the same answer again and again because the answer works. I want to be precise here, because this is exactly where it's easy to overreach. Convergence is not proof. It does not mean the appendix is essential, or that you can't live a full life without one. You can, and millions do. It means the organ is very unlikely to be the meaningless accident Darwin took it for. Those are two different claims. The evidence supports the second one, not the first. But sit with the shape of it. For tens of millions of years, across creatures that never met, evolution kept reaching into the same drawer and pulling out the same tool. It keeps coming back, and things that keep coming back are things that matter. Which brings us to the paradox. If it matters, why does it try to kill you? Because the world it was built for is gone. The backup drive earns its keep in a world of constant, gut-emptying infection and no clean water, the world your ancestors actually lived in. If your gut bacteria get wiped out twice a year, a protected reservoir to rebuild from is worth having. You don't live in that world. You have clean water, refrigeration, antibiotics. The catastrophe the appendix insured against almost never comes, but you still carry the hardware. And hardware can fail. A small dead-end tube can get blocked, inflamed, infected, and when it does, it can rupture. That's appendicitis. There's a proposed twist here, and I'll flag it as proposed because it is not settled. Parker and others have pointed out that appendicitis is far more common in clean, industrialized societies than in the developing world. The suggestion, and it is only a suggestion, is that the same modern hygiene that made the reservoir less necessary may be part of what leaves the appendix prone to inflammation. A hypothesis, not a fact, but it fits the pattern. So it isn't turning on you. It's a tool for an emergency you were lucky enough to be spared, sitting idle in a body that no longer needs it, and occasionally jamming. That's not a betrayal. It's a mismatch between the body you have and the century you live in. Now the question you actually came for. Should you fight to keep yours, and if it's already gone, have you lost something? This is where I slow all the way down, because this is exactly where the internet turns reckless. You will find people telling you your appendix is a secret health organ, and losing it wrecks you. So here's what the evidence actually says. All of it, including the parts that don't flatter the story. In 2011, a study by Im and colleagues in the journal Clinical Gastroenterology and Hepatology found something striking. Patients who'd had their appendix removed had higher rates of recurrent infection with Clostridium difficile, C. diff, a nasty gut infection that takes hold after the good bacteria are gone. Exactly what the safe house idea predicts. Lose the reservoir, lose some of your ability to bounce back. It looked like a clean confirmation. And then the follow-up work didn't hold it up. Over the next decade, more teams looked, and the results split. In 2023, a systematic review and meta-analysis by Naga and colleagues in Digestive Diseases and Sciences pooled 8 studies, around 660 people without an appendix, against roughly 3,600 with one. Their conclusion? No increased risk. A prior appendectomy did not raise the risk of severe or recurrent C. diff. So which is it? Here's the forensic answer. And it isn't the comfortable one. We don't know yet. One good study saw a protective signal. The larger pooled analysis didn't. The evidence is genuinely split, and an honest investigator reports the split instead of picking the half that sounds better. But notice what that split does and doesn't say. It does not say your appendix is doing nothing. The immune tissue is real. The evolutionary record is real. What it says is narrower, and it matters. If your appendix is already gone, the best available evidence does not show you're in danger. Parker himself, the man who proposed the safe house, has said that in a modern society, with sanitation and medicine, removing it appears to carry no discernible downside. That's the verdict nobody gives you straight, because it's 2 things at once, and people want one. It is probably not a mistake, and you are almost certainly fine without it. Both are true at the same time. Learning to hold both is the entire point of this channel. One hard word before we finish, and this one is not philosophy. Appendicitis is real, it's common, and it can kill. If you ever feel a pain that starts near your navel and settles low on the right side of your belly, with fever, with nausea, pain that sharpens when you move, that is not the moment to think about biofilms and evolution. That is the emergency room. That day. A ruptured appendix is life-threatening. Nothing in this video is a reason to wait. And let me kill the misreading before it starts. This is not an argument against removing an inflamed appendix. Nobody, not Parker, not me, is telling you to keep a diseased one out of respect for evolution. When it's infected, it comes out. That's not a debate. The one place this new science actually touches your life is quieter. For years, surgeons would sometimes take out a perfectly healthy appendix while already operating nearby, while we're in there, just in case. The reappraisal of this organ is making that routine harder to justify. So here's the single thing to carry out of this. A diseased appendix should come out, no question. But if anyone ever proposes taking out a healthy one for no reason, it is now entirely fair to ask them why. That's it. That's the whole action. Nothing more dramatic, and nothing less sensible. Which brings us back to the line I asked you to hold. They called it a mistake because they never saw it do its job, and now you know why. Its job was never the daily work of digestion Darwin was looking for. Its job was to survive the disaster, to keep a seed of you safe when the rest was scoured away, and to rebuild afterward. In a world that scoured people clean on a regular basis, that was worth inventing 32 separate times. In your world, it mostly waits, and occasionally jams. For 100 years we looked at a backup system built for a catastrophe we escaped, watched it do nothing in peacetime, and called it a defect. It was never the defect. We were just lucky enough to stop needing it. If this changed the way you see one small dismissed part of your own body, subscribe. This channel reopens the cases medicine closed too early and checks the verdicts everyone else stopped questioning. And answer me two things below. 1. Do you still have yours? Yes or no? 2. Before today, had you ever heard the appendix called anything but useless? One word each. Your answers tell me how many of you were handed the old verdict and never told it had changed, and how deep to go on the next one.